Valorant has constantly made attempts to fix many things that players would usually find confusing within the tac shooter genre. One of these things was definitely the armor system. In the case of Valorant, Riot attempted to make it as simple as possible and decided not to integrate any overly complicated damage calculation systems so that they can make buying armor more confusing for you. However, I still see way too many people with the wrong habits when buying out these shields. With that in mind, I wanted to specifically go over how shields work in the game and considerations of when you should and shouldn't buy them, and how certain levels of shields can actually be better in certain situations, and how by just buying full shield every round, you aren't probably setting yourself up for success. What's going on, gamers? It's Quatch Daddy here, giving you some more tips, tricks, and guides on all things Valorant so you can clap your enemies. In this guide, I'll be going over the shield system in Valorant, when you need to buy the right amount of shields, and how you can buy different levels of shields at different times to not only optimize your combat ability, but also to increase your economic efficiency so you can win more games. For more sweet videos like this one, consider liking and subbing this video and respond with what you want to see next. It really helps me out. Shields in Valorant are one concept that are constantly overlooked because many people think it's relatively simple to understand. Most players have a misunderstanding of how to optimize your shields in this game. Potentially to your surprise, there's more to the shield system in this game than you might think, and it's in your best interest to try and learn its system inside and out. Thankfully, Riot has not made the shield system too complicated to understand, especially when compared to its cousin CSGO. There's no complicated systems of certain levels of damage reduction and levels of headshot damage here. Armor in Valorant is calculated on a point basis, and in layman's terms, that means it is essentially extra HP for you to use. As of the time of this recording, the only way to acquire armor in the game is through the shop. There are two basic levels of armor in the game in the shop and are available at different price points. You can buy 25 armor for 400 credits, or you can buy 50 armor for 1000. For both levels of armor in the game, they absorb 66% or 2/3 of all damage dealt, up to the value of the armor. You don't have to pay too much attention to this system though, because in essentially every scenario, by the time you die in this game, you will have burned through all of that armor regardless, so it is really able to be treated as extra HP. The only time where you would need to care about armor is that it absorbs some of the extra damage that you would be taking if you wanted to heal yourself back up to 100 HP. If you get tagged by a stray bullet or something and are looking to top your HP back up, then you can use a Sage Shield and top yourself back off while still having some armor to spare. That's the main benefit of this system. Other than that though, you don't need to care about this armor calculation. That's pretty much it. You can easily just treat the extra armor in the game as your HP and essentially leave it at that. Although this calculation is simple when looked at its face value, there's a lot more to this when you factor in all of the different types of damage in the game and consider what level of armor you need and when you should be refilling it. You can honestly buy full armor in one round and could come back unscathed, or come back with something as low as 1 armor in a round. Of course, there's some levels of armor that are considered more important than others, so it takes good game sense to understand how to be as economically efficient as possible with this armor without sacrificing free rounds because of it. Most of this has to do with the economy in the game, as saving as many credits as possible will be key to having more pressure in every round. And good money management can be the difference maker from changing what could be a save round for your team into a full buy round. You can also use the same concept and apply it to predict how much armor your enemy could have and buy out the right guns and or play out the round differently. Generally speaking, if you have above 41 armor, assuming that your health is full, then it is effectively the same as having 50 armor. This is because with the guns in Valorant, it's generally very difficult to take 142 to 150 damage. Most things that would deal within that range would typically just deal the full 150, such as an upshot or a Rage's showstopper. Other things like the Vandal can either do only 117 or 156 damage, including its headshot. In the case of the Phantom, having 41 armor or above will enable you to not get one-tapped by it from 0 to 30 meters. Although there are some cases where you could get hit by a damage over time ability and then get shot by something else in order to die, it's relatively unlikely and therefore it would be worth it in this case. Another general checkpoint around the armor to have is above 17, where the same concept generally applies. Having above 17 armor allows you to take 3 shots from the Vandal and Phantom from 0 to 15 meters, which is important to be able to handle damage from enemies, especially on a budget. This would also mean that buying light armor is actually fairly viable in these rounds as well. So generally speaking, as long as you have more than 17 armor in the game, you will be able to tank generally around the same amount of shots as if you had full armor. There's an absolutely insane amount of types of damage in the game, so having more armor will generally be better, but there are cases where you could get more with less. This has been increasingly common at the higher tiers of play as well, as more players have been buying light armor with a full rifle if they win the pistol round, as the increased power from a proper rifle seems to outweigh the increased amount of armor from a full set. Higher level players also will run a similar build when they need to full spy, as sometimes it is too hard to hit the 3,900 credit amount required in order to buy full armor and a rifle. Light armor is actually more efficient than full armor as well, since you get more bang for your buck. Overall, it's rather complicated to try and predict how you will take damage in a round and how you can die when having certain amounts of armor, but if you have leftover armor from a round, a good rule of thumb is to rebuy your armor when you have 17 or less. Buying light armor is also more cost efficient, so if you're on a really tight budget in a round, definitely consider that instead. Overall, armor is a concept in Valorant that is simple on the surface, but actually has an incredible amount of depth when you think about optimizing it. Optimal levels of armor have been constantly discussed ever since the game's release date, and will continue to change as new agents and weapons are introduced and adjusted. Hope this guide gives you more insight on this topic and helps you be more efficient in your games. Stay fresh, brothers.